So delighted to say, joining us once again on the We Are West Ham podcast is friend of mine, friend of the show, friend of Jonesy's, Stamford Chidge, Dave Chidge. Chidge, how are you, mate? It's great to have you back again. We were saying earlier on in the podcast, Jonesy and I, how you actually are a lifelong friend of the podcast because we met you in those heady days of Love Sport Radio in the studios at Southwark when the We Are West Ham podcast was certainly born. As the West Ham fan show, as it then was. You used to do the Chelsea fan show at the same studio. We did a lot of general football and sports shows together. You and I, hours on air, cooped up in that little room together on Sundays in Southwark. Wonderful times indeed. How are you?
Well, I'm all right, mate. Yeah, I'm very, very busy. Never a dull moment with Chelsea off the pitch. Plenty of dull moments on it.
Quite, yeah. I mean, there is, of course, only one place to start with Chelsea at the moment, and it is the transfers. I do want to make sure I get in the fact that you've scored just 2 goals in 6 games, because that puts an enormous smile on my face. We'll get into that, the reasons behind that, etc., in a little while. But you've already alluded to it with the drama and, I don't know, circus nature, as it sometimes seems, of your football club. Off the pitch for years and years and years, that it seemed to be organised, structured chaos that did actually bring glory and trophies. Now it just seems like chaos. But the one underlying thing is Todd Boehly, contrary to reports or beliefs before he'd taken over, clearly is still willing to spend Roman Abramovich style £606 million, if you believe some of the reports, is what he's spent so far. What do you make of it, mate? What are your thoughts?
Well, I think you make a good point in some respects. I mean, I was jokingly saying we had chaos and trophies under Roman, and now we have chaos and probably no trophies under Boehly.
Yeah.
I mean, the reality is that if you only have a quick view of it, then it looks mental. I mean, it really does. I mean, even by the standards of Roman when he first came in, and he was splashing cash all over the place, buying a lot of players, even by those standards, it seems like it's bonkers. But actually, you really have to get a handle on what Boehly's modus operandi is and what his plan is. And I'm still on the Chelsea Sports Trust, and during the bidding process, we met with all the bidders, and Boehly laid out what his plans were. And I have to say, he's doing exactly what he said he was going to do. He's doing exactly what he did at the Dodgers, which bears some comparison. These guys are serious. They do not muck about. They spend a lot of money to get what they want, and I think that's what you're evidencing. Just to fit it in further with the plan, Roman liked to buy shiny new toys, basically. This lot are very much, I mean, I'm not saying that Chelsea weren't into stats and data before, because they clearly were. All decent Premier League clubs are. This lot are it's like the whole Moneyball idea in baseball. I don't know if you've come across that.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
They're very much into that.
The Tony Bloom sort of Brentford style, sort of thing.
That's why he's hired most of the Brighton backroom staff with Potter. That's why he's bought a whole load of other guy from Leipzig. So that's part of the plan. And also, if you look, everybody that they bought is around 20, 21, 22. So they're buying young players.
Yeah.
So they're buying them. If they work out, great. They've made a great investment. They've got them on a long contract. If they don't, they'll sell them on. So I know it looks bonkers from the outside, but I actually think there's quite a plan that's going on. They're just doing it at rapid speed. They're probably doing about 2 or 3 seasons buying in literally one window. Because what they want to do is to try and accelerate the process rather than we'll do it staged, and that'll take even longer. But the reality is, Will, none of us that go week in, week out, none of us know if it's going to work or not, and we know it's going to take some time. And I think the game against Fulham on Friday was brilliant evidence that this is all going to take some time.
Yeah, I think in this day and age, Chidge, like you say, money gets you so far, but how you spend it is equally, if not more important. Everton being a perfect example of that, and the chaos they're in at the moment. One thing that sort of baffled me a little bit as far, and I do accept your point regarding long-term vision and long-term success. I still think in the modern day you have to marry that a little bit with. I mean, you don't if you're Bowley. It's up to him if he doesn't care about finishing 14th this season, and he's confident in the bounce back.
I think
already.
I do. See, everybody, you know this. You know, you work in the media. I've worked in the media. It's funny, isn't it? Everywhere you either read it or you see it on Sky or whatever, everybody's saying, "Oh, you know, another duff result for Potter and he'll get the sack." Or Chelsea don't hang around; they fire their man. Yeah, Chelsea under Roman Abramovich didn't hang around. They're not taking into account this is a very new mode of working. And I think Bowley will stick with Potter. I really do. I don't think he cares. Well, he's not going to be happy, but if we finish outside of the top 6, if we finish outside of the top 10, I don't think he's going to sweat at all. I think he's punted this season. It's a way to get him what he needs to starting to get them to gel and make some improvement. I think that's what he's looking at. And then we go next season.
Yeah, that's fair enough, I guess. I mean, you know, Chelsea 9th in the league at the moment, 30 points. Yeah, 10 points off of top 4 with 17 games to go. Not an insurmountable gulf or bridge to gap to bridge, excuse me. But what I find a little bit baffling about the whole thing is that, you know, in order to comply with certain financial fair play regulations, make sure the books balance up a bit, which obviously Bowley in his personal capacity doesn't have to do, but the rules of football demand that is what you have to do if you want to compete in UEFA competitions in particular. What I just find he's put Potter in a really awkward position. I know it's easy. Fans will go, "Oh, he spent all that money. It's brilliant. What a perfect owner to have as Potter." But the mess, all the players you've got, there's going to have to be a mass exodus in the summer in order to balance a lot of the books, wages and transfer fee wise. And you only have to look at the Ziyech situation. You leave Potter in a really awkward position. You've just bought all these big name signings of having to leave 4 of them out, I believe, of the Champions League squad. Aubameyang not in there as a fairly recent arrival. Yeah, I know you say good. Yeah, but it just seems like, and Potter's already, I'd listened into one of his press conferences last week, and he's already been sort of, a journalist colleague of mine was giving him a little bit of a grilling, about all the new faces coming through the door at Chelsea, etc., etc. Does it not leave Potter in an awkward position for the rest of this season? Or do you feel that, like you say there, Bowley's just willing to accept some short-term pain? We'll say the same thing to Potter, just put up with the grief, but I'm backing you in the beginning of next season. Let's have it.
Well, I think it will depend entirely on Potter. And I think one of the problems that he has, not with the players, but with the supporters, is that it's really very hard to know Potter because he doesn't really give anything away. I mean, if I was being fair, I would say he's very well media trained and a bright bloke. If I was being unfair, I'd say he was very bland. So, but you really don't know who you're dealing with here. But if he is as good a man manager as we're told, if he's as bright as we're told, if he's as self-assured and self-aware as we're told, then maybe he will be able to manage what is undeniably, if you think about football as you and I know it particularly, an absolutely crazy situation of trying to keep happy a squad of 30-odd players, many of whom are experienced and quite senior and will want to play and will kick off if they... I mean, it. We've all played, whatever level of football you've played, you've got two camps, haven't you? Those who are getting picked and that are playing that are happy and like the manager. Those who are not picked and are not playing, you hate the manager. It doesn't matter what level of football you're in, it's going to happen. So he's got a job on his hands there, and I do feel for him a bit. On your first point, I completely agree. I mean, there's one thing is this kind of amortization, which is sticking all these new signings on very long contracts. So basically, it's like if you spend 100 million quid on a new signing, it doesn't all go into 2023's accounts. If you amortize it over the length of the contract, and it's a 10-year contract, it goes 10 million in this year's account. So they're getting around FFP with that. But the other thing is, you're right, they're going to have to get rid of a hell of a lot of players to balance the books to a degree. And the third part of the equation is that their plans are to really increase revenue hugely, but that's going to take some time. They're going to have to offer a lot. Well,
yeah. So what do you, obviously, you give us your thoughts on the actual situation there. Last time we spoke, it was amid the Roman Abramovich departure, and it was all up in the air and chaotic.
I was very angry. I remember that. I was absolutely seething, wasn't I? I think I was trying to kill my club, Will. God damn it! I remember it.
Yeah. I mean, much to my chagrin, it doesn't appear to have worked. But
sorry, guys, we're still here.
Yeah,
since 2003.
Exactly. Yeah, as you know, I've got I'm in a fairly small group of West Ham fans. I think potentially even a group of one who has a soft spot for Chelsea. No, who has a soft spot for Chelsea and your fans. How do you feel then as a Chelsea fan at the moment? Like you've gone into the nitty gritty there, but how do you feel? Are you optimistic for your club? Are you proud to be a Chelsea fan at the moment? Are you pleased with how it's gone? Are you happy with Bowley in charge? Are you confident? How does it feel at the moment?
Well,
if you know what I mean better than
I
most.
do. You sound like me with my clients, mate. Honestly, with my psychotherapist hat on. It's a really good question, Will. Actually, it's a really good, because the honest answer is I don't really know.
Yeah,
I feel a bit confused. Is the honest answer, because having been privy to what the Bowley plan was, and seeing the evidence of that so far, they've kept to their word so far on everything. As I said, I'm on the supporters trust, so I've had a level of access. I mean, I had a huge level of access with the previous regime. And I liked a few of them. I mean, we were on opposite sides of the table, obviously, and they were a bit annoying because they wouldn't give you what you want, and you just had to keep hammering into them. This lot are very different. They're very amenable, very reasonable. They go with ideas and they do it. They don't procrastinate. So they're a very different lot to deal with. But the reality is, well, I'm an old git and I've been around a long time. So there's a very cynical side to me. And if I was being very honest with you, I would say I worry that whatever's happening at the club now is going to come at the expense of what I've been used to for 40 years. In other words, they're going to change the culture. It's going to be, I mean, if they want to make £1 billion a year, they're going to commercialise everything. I think you're going to lose a bit of soul. I'm not sure about Potter. I'm really not. I mean, I love Tuchel. I absolutely love the bones of the guy, but I understand that his position was pretty untenable, really. Potter. I mean, my gut feeling is if you want to do a rebuild of this scale, you go and hire an elite European manager to do it for a club the size of Chelsea.
But you had one of those.
Well, I know, and he got rid of him. But I mean, Potter is not that man. But they want him. He's their boy, and I mean, the other thing about Potter is it does take him 2 to 3 years to make his size work. So, I don't want to go off the deep end and get all reactionary about it, because that is an emotional reaction. No, because I don't believe it. I think we're going to have to give him time. I don't think you can just sit there and go, oh, it's not like it was, we can't handle it, because that would be easy. But I think we need to give him time. And remember, he came in September. I don't think the morale in the camp was too good. We bought some mad signings, which were Bowley's fault for Tuchel. I mean, Aubameyang, 2 days before you fire Tuchel, is insane. So he's now hopefully getting his own players. He's had a whole team out injured. We had 11 first-team players out injured not 3 weeks ago. So he's had quite a lot to deal with, but it's difficult. And I think I'm glad you brought the emotional side into it, because if football is not about emotions, then why are we going?
Yeah, of course, mate. Yeah,
and I think this is the problem. We had a huge emotional connection to Roman Abramovich. We had a huge emotional connection to Thomas Tuchel. There is nothing there with Potter. Yeah, he won't engage with us on an emotional level. And we don't see it. We don't see what's happening. And it's hard to get excited about it. And I think, I left Stamford Bridge on Friday night, actually really pissed off, because we were so excited because we had all these new signings, and I didn't see a bloody goal. And I haven't seen. I can't remember how many I've seen, but not enough this season. That's for sure.
Well, as I've managed to remind you at the beginning of this
2 and
little
7,
chat, 2 and 6, 3 and 7.
3 and 7.
Yeah, and it's a bit annoying because then on the 27th of December it was, you actually mustered up 2 goals in a single game. Bravo, indeed, Chidge. But yeah, since after you beat Dynamo Zagreb 2-1 on the 2nd of November in the Champions League, since then you've only scored twice in a game twice. So
I thought we beat Milan away 3 or something.
No, not according to the Google. No, that was your 6th game in the Champions League. The Zagreb game was your last one. Milan away was 2-0 anyway.
2-0. Played well that night, but they're pony, mate, I tell you.
So are you, according to these results here, mate.
Okay, they're even more pony than we are. How's that?
Exactly. Yeah. Well, look, listen. I mean, you'll know as well as the next man that I typically detest a football cliche, whereas James Jones, my friend and colleague of yours, of course he is. He is a walking cliche. This week's pod, he spent telling me about these new blue light glasses he's got to protect himself from the harmful rays of his TV screen, mobile phone screen, and laptop. The man is definitely a walking cliche. I couldn't agree more. But one thing, when you look at, I don't like football cliches, as I was saying, and the main football cliche that I've heard batted about on West Ham Twitter in the build up to this Chelsea game, and you'll hear it on Sky Sports and the pundits as well. It's a good time to play Chelsea. It's a really good time to play Chelsea. We're in a really bad spot at the moment, and to be quite honest, it's actually hard to argue. We are slightly less bad than we were 6 or so weeks ago, so I wouldn't say it's a particularly bad time to play West Ham, but it's a slightly less of a good time to play us than it was a few weeks ago. So based on that, how do you see the game, Saturday lunchtime game at London Stadium on Saturday? How do you see it sort of playing out?
I much the same as you actually. I think 3 or 4 weeks ago was a good time to play Chelsea when they were on, before we played Palace. We beat Palace 1-0 at home. We were pretty average, but we squeaked past them.
I'd say that's pretty much a thrashing for you guys these days, isn't it?
Well, yeah, exactly. We played well, I thought, at Liverpool, but I mean, the match looked exactly what it was, which was a match between 2 mid-table sides at the moment. Liverpool are even more shocking than we are. I mean, I don't think we played badly against Fulham. Actually, I don't think we played badly at all.
No. They're more clinical finishing. You could have won it.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, Fulham are very well organised. They pressed and they ran around. They shithoused their way through the entire match. They knew what they wanted to do. But so I don't think we played badly. But what we did is what we've been doing for 2 years now, which was struggling to finish chances and put the ball in the back of the net. And this has been going on way before Potter. And actually, it's easy to point the finger at strikers. Poor old Havertz gets a lot of stick. He's not a number 9. He's a number 10.
No, quite,
so I feel for him because he's being played out of position. But the real problem, is the midfield, mate. It's been the problem for a long, long, long time. We don't have really, I don't think, genuinely goal-scoring creative midfielders. Obviously we had the luxury of Frank Lampard for years, and that's the kind of player we don't have anymore. Or a Cesc Fabregas or an Eden Hazard. They're all defensively minded, or he doesn't play the likes. I mean, I think you're gonna hate me for this. This is going to validate why most West Ham fans hate Chelsea. But when we have a midfield next season of Declan Rice as the holding midfield player, and we might have. I mean, I would put my perfect midfield really. But then I'm biased towards the younger English players. Would be Mount, Rice, and Gallagher. So you have Rice as the 6, and you have Gallagher and Mount as the 8.
Gallagher good enough though, Chidge?
Well, I don't know. The jury's out. I mean,
no, but for where you want to be, Chelsea are this world class or wannabe world class outfit.
I saw him play for Palace. I saw him play for Palace last year, and he looked superb. And the thing about Gallagher, he can score goals. I don't think there are very few players at all at Chelsea at the moment who are in good form. The only two players who've got in good form at the moment are Badiashile and Silva. They were outstanding against Fulham. They were outstanding the week before. They're on form. No, everybody else is stinking the place out, including Mount. Mount's exhausted. He's been overplayed for the last 3 years. And Gallagher's walking into disarray at a very young age. And he wears his heart on his sleeve, and he loves Chelsea. So he charges around like a bull in a china shop. You see, and this is why I wonder about Potter. Because surely a manager should be getting into a kid's ear like that and saying, mate, calm it down. Just calm it down. Just think about what you're doing. It's okay. Just chill, But he cares about it, and he runs around. He gets a booking nearly every game. So, but I do think there is a player in there. I really do. But the jury is out on him. Enzo Fernandez was superb, by the way, against Fulham, and he's been there a day, and he looks a player, mate. I have to say. So it's not all doom by any stretch, but I think that the reason we don't score enough goals is not simply because we've got shit strikers. It's because we don't have enough people behind them, finding them with the right pass, putting them into space. They tend to go backwards, not forwards. Thankfully, Jorginho's been sold because he was the main architect of backwards passing at the club. So, it's the midfield, mate. That's the problem.
Yeah. Fair enough. Well, that's what people keep saying. Declan Rice won't go to Chelsea anymore. I do kind of figure it sort of matters where you finish this season, really, and whether you've got another 100+ million to cough up, because he will obviously be a target for many clubs. I think if Man United would be stupid not to break the bank for him. I think with N'Golo Kante's injury record, I also think he would. People seem to be just writing him off, writing the Chelsea move off already, but I can still really, really see it. If he's keen, laughable reports suggesting that he's given his word to Arsenal that he would go there. But again,
they're keen on him.
I just still think beneath him. I think financially and for genuine prospects going forward, I just can't see that move for whatever reason. So the game on Saturday then, Chidge, style wise, how do you see it playing out? Which of your 904 first team players do you think you'll start?
Well, I mean, first of all, I'm really pissed off because I had a ticket. I can't go now, so I'm very upset. I was supposed to be meeting. I mean, it's funny what you say about having a soft spot for Chelsea. I've got quite a lot of mates who are West Ham fans. Yeah. And I was going to meet a mate there, so I'm really pissed off I can't go. But there we go. That's just my problem, really. But how's it going to go? I mean, genuinely, Will, I haven't got Scooby. I mean, you just don't know with Chelsea. You just really, they're unpredictable, and then some. Who he'll pick? Well, again, Lord knows. I mean, I think most of us want to see some of these newer guys getting a chance. So obviously Fernandez, you want to see him play. I think Mount needs a rest for his own good. I really do. I don't think
likes a goal against West Ham, though, didn't he? Especially in the stadium.
He does. I mean, I love Mount to pieces, but he's just not. I think he suffered from all the madness that's been going on at the club, as well as the fact that he's probably exhausted. So I would be tempted to take him out of the firing line at the moment. We have nobody who could start up front, although we've got this very raw Ivorian kid, Fofana, who nearly scored against Fulham late on. I'd be tempted to give him a whirl because there isn't anybody else. Mudryk looked brilliant in his cameo against Liverpool. He did nothing against Fulham, but he wasn't well. So you have to question, well, why start him then if he's not well?
Yeah.
So, I mean, who knows who he'll pick. But, Reece James and Chilwell, I mean, James played 60 minutes but looked a bit tired and not fit and ring rusty. Chilwell came on for the last 10. But, I mean, when you've got players like them coming back, I mean, our season under Tuchel last season derailed after Chilwell's injury against Juventus. I mean, that was one of the best games I've seen in recent memory, actually, by Chelsea. And we were top of the league at the time. He gets injured, Lukaku kicks off, and then James gets injured, and the whole season derailed. So bringing those two back is going to be very encouraging. And I've heard that N'Golo Kante's not far off. So
for now, though.
I don't know. We'll see. He might. I'm not sure if he's. I'm telling you who is available, which will be interesting as well. And I think he'll get a start. Maybe he'll possibly take on a kind of a false number 9 role, and that's Felix.
No, of course. Yeah. Got sent off, didn't he? That was Fulham the first game, wasn't it?
Yeah. I mean, it's stupid sending off, but I mean, he was looking
yeah.
really good. He was looking very good. So maybe he'll get a start.
Yeah.
And the other one is that Mudueki, who looked quite fun when he came on. If you're going to start with the new guys, they're going to play, and who knows what will happen. We've been shocking away from home all season, by the way. Absolutely.
Well, fingers crossed, mate. Look, Chidge, it's been absolutely brilliant having you back on the show again. And, I always love talking to you about all things Chelsea. You always begrudgingly force me to admit that I don't mind Chelsea fans and Chelsea as a club. No, it's just what you said there about the risk of losing, losing the soul and passion and all that sort of thing. I think so much of the Premier League these days is so sanitised, isn't it? And I still love going to Stamford Bridge, and all my mates who are Chelsea have supported Chelsea since when they were crap, as I so succinctly put it. I still soft spot there for you, Chidge. Don't worry about that. Not on Saturday, of course, and I'll rejoice if we do manage to get a result. But give us a score prediction before I let you go.
Well, you know what? Bloody hell. I mean, we so need to have a win. Can I bear to predict something other than a win? I'm going to... Do you know what? Felix is back. And I thought when he played against Fulham, we did all right. So I'm going to go 2-1. 2-1 or 1-0. There's a goal in it, really.
Yeah. No, I see what you mean. I managed to positively manifest a point at Newcastle by predicting 1-1 last week ahead of that St James's Park trip. So I'm going to do exactly the same this week. But I just fancy it. I always like the games against Chelsea. They're always good games. The lunchtime kickoff had a bit of a different element to it. We're starting to look like we've remembered the basic concepts of football, like passing to your own players and stuff like that. So I fancy we'll nick a 1-0. I'm going to try and positively manifest that.
I'm kind of with you there. I mean, I think it will be. Head says a draw 1-1, but heart's going for 1-0, 2-1. So I thought you were decent against Newcastle. I caught a bit of that actually. I thought you looked much better than you have done recently. So.
Yeah, as I said to Jonesy earlier, as my dad so succinctly put it, he just said we actually looked like we did a year ago when we were good and enjoying watching West Ham. So, listen, Chidge, it's been absolutely brilliant having you on again. Thanks so much for joining us and giving us your time. Mate, where can people find you?
Chelsea FanCast on all the socials.
Excellent stuff. Stamford Chidge joining us ahead of that game at